Hello and welcome to Talking WoW, the podcast where we talk about World of Warcraft, believe it or not. My name is Tom, and today we are going to be talking about the fact that we casted Race to World First for the Dungeon Dojo. And, well, it wasn't just me and my co-host Marty. Hey, Marty.
Hello.
We were also casting with the wonderful Tru Villain Manny from the For Azeroth podcast. Hey, Manny. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be on here. I discovered you guys, and it feels bad to say this, that I've discovered you guys just a few weeks ago, but you guys have definitely been a ton of fun to catch up on the back catalog, so I've really been enjoying this, and now I get to sit down and talk with you, so this is awesome.
Thank you very much, and Marty will send that 100,000 gold to you after the show for those very, very kind words. And we the three of us also, I just need to clarify this point as well. We were very fortunate to be part of the Dungeon Dojo Race to World First, which was an event during the Amirdrassil raid, Race to World First, where we had the privilege and the pleasure to cover underrepresented guilds that were also battling it out, going for those world first kills in Mythic difficulty, not LFR. That's just me. And we were joined by some incredible people that I'm going to list them all out here because it would be an injustice if we did not. We had actually Arcane, we had Wochi, head of the Dungeon Dojo, we had Crazy Pick, we had Party Pete, we had Sean from Recruit a Friend podcast, we had Rook, we had Sam Talks, we had Tack Talks, we had Mr. GM, we had Marty, we had me, we had Twick, we had Four, we had Missildine, Chrisette, Exodars, Haughty Chicken, Laurentium, Logan, Liffy, Manny, and Cherry PvP. And, just going through those names, geeking out a little bit, because there's some, real juggernauts of the content creation field of World of Warcraft there. We were in very, very good company, and we had many, many days of footage covering these underrepresented guilds. And, well, fortunately, the reason probably why the three of us are sitting here now is because the three of us were paired together on a casting schedule. And, well, we kind of hit it off, Manny, didn't we?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. The 4 hours we spent together was the initial tryst that started our quote-unquote love affair, as you will. And it was just so great how quickly we sort of found our stride, how we sort of just gravitated to okay, that's what I want to do, that's where your strength is, and that sort of stuff. And that was, I want to say, it was definitely the best example of that. Obviously some of these greats that you just listed off, they just have that talent to naturally shift that. But in terms of the fact that all of us were basically new to this, I haven't seen the episode of Casting WoW yet. Yeah, being able to get that natural flow going was stupendous in my books.
It was so much fun. I'm so glad we were brought together like that. And I suppose I feel like I need to rewind time just a little bit more, because the founder of the Dungeon Dojo, Wochi's been on this podcast before and talked about the Dungeon Dojo, and we mention it from time to time. Dungeon Dojo, go check it out if you haven't heard of it. Wochi had this idea, a fleeting idea maybe, of how amazing one day it would be to host a Race to World First with underrepresented guilds that don't get the footage, guilds that maybe aren't in the top three, and covering that. Suddenly, an idea turned into reality, and within 2 weeks, the whole thing was planned, and suddenly we had this schedule where we had to show up for, and we were casting. Marty, I'm just going to start with you. How did you feel about that? Because I know I sort of put my arm around you a little bit, and you had said you might have been interested. I also said I might have been interested. And being someone who is complete, novice about raiding and everything like that, very much out of our comfort zone. So how did you feel taking your first steps into casting an actual Race to World First event?
I mean, first I want to quickly mention that when you say things were planned out, I feel like sort of planned, sort of we were building the plane while we were flying it, because none of us...
There was a spreadsheet, though. I mean, I want to say there was a spreadsheet. There was some times on that spreadsheet, and there was names beside those times. So for me, that is planning.
All right, that's fair. If that's all you need, then oh boy, I have a spreadsheet for you. No, I think I had I was in two minds about it because I wanted to, but I was also unsure if I would be able to do it for multiple reasons. I have my Danish mouth over here that sometimes can't keep up with my brain. I have not that, I do have knowledge about the game. I have been raiding Mythic, but I don't have knowledge about, intimate knowledge about the fights and stuff like that. So I wasn't sure if I could, go in and be, and now they are going to press the thingy at the pop, and then they will totally not have to stand in that fire and, all that. So I was unsure. I was really unsure. But you said, hey, when do we ever get like an opportunity like this? And I was like, you're right, Tom. For once, I don't want to get this recording out about telling everyone that for once you're right. So yeah, I jumped on board, and the rest of his is history by now, I guess.
And I feel like that's a great segue for Manny to come in here, because Manny, you've been like looking to get into casting, and I know the Dungeon Dojo wasn't your first event that you've ever casted in, but you are relatively new to the casting scene. But how was it for you stepping into this event?
Yeah, so like you said, it's not my first casting, but I haven't done that many before. Prior to this, I had casted 2 events for the Mythic Plus scene doing Keystone Dungeons. One was with Raider.io with their Break the Meta, and the other one was, again, with the Dungeon Dojo, just doing their own Dungeon Dojo Invitational. So I've been learning along the way. This is yet another learning experience because, yeah, like you're both right. There was like that plan that was put together, but a lot of things were also trying to figure it out as we went. Like we had the plane in terms of we had wings, we had the entire carapace, but then there were sort of things like, hey, you know what would be great? Landing gear, and putting that together to like actually land this project. So
and some pretzels. Don't forget about the pretzels.
And pretzels, exactly. So there was a lot of stuff where you would show up and it's like, okay, well, what is the flow, right? Like I said before, it was amazing that like the 3 of us got to sit down and just sort of like gel so well together, right? That breaking the ice literally live on camera in front of how many people who happened to be watching at that time, we just figured out our groove and did it so well. Sometimes that didn't work out as well with other people because personalities are personalities. Sometimes it's oil and water. There was a lot that I think really I loved about the way that we did it, because I think in other projects where they are doing so much of this sort of like fine-tuning beforehand, and it's almost like clinical, as it were, I wouldn't have experienced that wide variety. Like you just listed out that all those people, 20 plus casters. I didn't get to cast with all of them, though I was casting the majority of the days there. But meeting with all those people, regardless of like their level of experience in this scene, their level of knowledge for race to world first, or even just raiding in general, being able to talk and to present with all of those people is just so much a learning experience, and I love that. So the statistics that I got from Marty was just fantastic. Being able to do that kind of reference, you were saying like, oh, you don't know what you would call it and stand out of this sort of stuff, and be able to pull stuff at like basically a snap of the finger when your internet is not trolling you is so great. I myself, I'm horrible with names, right? Which is horrible when you talk about podcasting and you're like, hey, we're going to talk about this mechanic and why it's ruining the game, and check show notes. Banding. Nope, that's a typo. Barding. But like, it also shows that, yeah, a lot of prep work is necessary for those huge professional events. So seeing what we were able to put on was amazing. Seeing what all these other teams are being able to put on, knowing a little bit behind the curtain now what goes on, makes it just that much more amazing.
Yeah, and I think like one of the things as well when we were like, said and done with it all, we were all so excited with it that we had all so many like ideas and suggestions of like, ooh, how we can streamline things and how we can, next time, hopefully we get to do this again, that, what we can improve and what we can work on as well. But, for something, when you think about it, it was put together in 2 weeks and we came together and we did it like, oh my goodness, it was just absolutely incredible. And I was approaching this from a place where I'd never really been that interested in Race to World First. I'm not a big raider. I don't know much about mechanics. And honestly, I was terrified. I was terrified the fact that I'd put my name down for this, even though I was being told, look, it's okay. Like, we need people like you, Tom. We need people like you who can ask Manny, like, what is that thing on the floor, Manny? Like, why is it hurting people? You know what I mean? And I think there was just this great connection between, the casters, where you did have people that didn't have that knowledge, like myself. And I'm, hand on heart, I feel like me and Manny are just like opposite ends of the scale. But when you put those two together, it like balances it out. And the nature of the dojo, the Dungeon Dojo, is about learning and about education in a safe place to do that, where you can ask questions like this. No one's gonna, look down on you for asking those questions and for being inquisitive about something, because that's what we want. We want more people to feel like Warcraft is a safe place, and we want that.
So yeah, because I know a little bit about, Tom, I know a little bit about your preparation, so maybe we can touch upon that. How much did you prepare? But before we go to Tom, Manny, how much did you prepare before this event?
So for this event, it came together quickly, so I didn't prepare, and I think that's one of the lessons I took away, is that I want to prepare more, but already you're going into the new raid, so looking up those fights, I had spent some time on the PTR, so I already had a good knowledge of like what was being tested, but obviously sometimes that is not exactly what hits live. Nimue was a big example. That fight radically changed from what I tested when they were testing it on Heroic to what actually went live. And so being able to get sort of a feel for that is one thing. That was part of my testing. Then I know, and speaking with like some of the like great people who were casting with us and people who were casting for other events, being able to just like have some notes at the ready to be able to like pull that sort of stuff is very solid. And my preparation actually took place a lot as the event was happening, because I wanted to sort of be like, okay, well, when we jump on and we have our crew, well, what's been happening before we started at like whatever time wherever we happen to be. So it might be 2 p.m. for me. It might then be like 7 p.m. in Ireland, and then 8 or 9 further into Europe. But that means something in terms of where the European guilds are and how much time they have left in their day. That means something in terms of like the NA guilds and like what they're going to do. But I also looked at like what we were doing, and we keep talking about how Dungeon Dojo is not just about like the elite and like every min-max thing you can do. And I love min-max. That's something I do. But I love making that approachable. That's sort of how like I connect with the dojo. And so I wanted to look sort of back away from like every minor detail and talk more about like how these teams are approaching the fight. Like, it is amazing, the show, the spectacle that these guys put on, from the very big household name guilds that we all know to like these lesser known guilds that are just tearing through it. And these guilds make names for themselves. I think after this race, only a fool is going to forget the name Instant Dollars. But who are the people in Instant Dollars, right? There's a lot of former Liquid members in in Instant Dollars. That's a big connection, right? When they are pushing through all of this stuff, what are the other teams doing? And so I kind of like wanted to talk more about the broader picture, and even how people get from like sitting and watching the race to the world first to participating in it. And that's sort of where I sort of put my focus. So more about the narrative in the Dungeon Dojo's Race to World First than about the small details, which is why I really loved having the statistics that you were able to pull up so much, Marty.
So yeah, my own preparation was zero. I didn't prepare at all, because I think I just went in with the, you know what, I've seen all the world first.
Just so confident
sort of mentality. But I also knew that, you know, my weakness would be the fights themselves. So when I had the chance to talk with some of the casters beforehand, I think that's what I tried to at least say, that, you know, I have this knowledge, but I don't have so much of this knowledge. So hopefully we can cover each other. And Tom, I believe you went in with close to zero knowledge.
I mean,
right?
I was literally like Bart Simpson studying for the exam the night before the exam. I had agreed to do this casting. Did I know the names for the bosses when I agreed to do this? Absolutely not. So there I was, you know, the day before I'm going to be actually casting, writing the names of the bosses down. Actually, not saying them out loud though, and that was a big mistake because, oh my goodness, the boss names in this raid, ridiculous and really tricky for casters. Some might say it's even harder to pronounce some of these names than actually competing in Race to World First. Just saying, it was a bit of a tongue twister there. But no, I was going through, I was writing things down. I honestly, I just got into a point where I was writing that much that I was like, ow, like this hurts. Like I haven't wrote this much since I was at school. But yeah, I was just having fun, taking notes. I wrote down every single Race to World First winner on a page, how long it took, up until about Warlords of Draenor or something like that. I was like, that could be fun. That could be fun to rhyme off at some point. And you know what, it was just to pull out of the bag sometimes. And with regards to fight encounters, thanks to Raider.io, they had some good summaries of 2 points of what things to look out for. But again, I was very fortunate that I was in teams with, the likes of Manny, with the likes of recruiter friend Sean and Melissa Dine Online, where they had that knowledge. They had that knowledge there and they could see what was happening and I could ask questions. And I think that's the perfect blend of just, you've got the noob, I'm pointing at myself here, and you've got, someone like Manny who's looking at the encounters. They know what the encounters, they know what to look for, they know what to highlight here. And then I feel like, you got someone like Marty who's in the middle there, knows what to look for in the stat page, pulling that forward. I know we were a good team, and I know we're sitting here blowing our own trumpet a little bit. The other team's also fantastic, but we were the best.
No, I think also my approach was probably the same way as I approach a raid. That I when I do a raid, I do check out what's rough, what's the quickest video, what's the shortest video, and I'll watch that, and then I have a general idea, because the best way for me to learn is by doing things, so actually being in there and experiencing it. So I think that was my approach here as well, that I knew that I could probably done a little bit more preparation, but
you can always do more though, can you? You can always do more and more, and there's I don't think there's any limit to that. I had bought this notepad, and there was many pages in that notepad, Marty, and I'm sure if I had unlimited time, I could have filled that notepad with things. So
yeah,
I mean, considering you're just sitting here going, I did no preparation, you did a great job on no preparation. You would have you'd like show up to the exam, you'd probably got like a C plus or a B minus, and that's fine.
I mean, that's just like back in school. So
Yeah, but I have spoken to some casters, up and coming casters like Patience B. I think because I've like looked at it and be like, do I want to cast? Like the first thing that I've done is look at people that's like, okay, like what are they doing? What do I want to emulate from that? I had a really good experience with Lethy, who is one of the casters that we had. They actually put on a little workshop where they're like, okay, let's have you cast something. And so with zero experience, zero prep, here's a video, we're going to mute the audio, and you follow along and you cast the action, right? That's a type of casting, just that like right there, point to point commenting, okay, so this is happening and this is happening and this is happening, right? But I said before, I'm bad with names. Do I stutter? Do I go like, oh, what's that move called and that sort of thing? And it's like, I don't know. How much do you focus on what you don't know? Can you shift that sort of thing? And having that little workshop, I think, was so helpful. And having somebody that can do that sort of guidance. I know Liquid Women in WoW have put on a couple of different tutorials and workshops and that's helped a lot of people. Obviously, that is for women and gender minorities to do that. And I know that these great casters, like, they're approachable people. Before this, I have had many opportunities talking with Sam Talks and asking him about stuff. And it's great that the community, not just for like the general WoW community, but the casting community is so helpful to sort of like go like, okay, well, do I want to do that, like that kind of commentary? Do I want to do more hosting where it's like, hey, like, let's say that I'm not that numbers guy. I can hand it off to Tom and be like, hey, Tom, so like, what do you think about this? And sort of chew up that sort of thing. And then Tom, right, in this alternate world where that wasn't what you picked up,
I'd be like, Marty, could you help me here?
And it's interestingly enough, I think if we do this again, I think that's actually where I want to be. I want to be that probably a little bit more of a productions guy behind the scenes that helps getting all, if you need some kind of stats, stuff like that, because I feel like that I found my niche. I found what I can do, what I'm good at. But it doesn't mean that if there would be a Dungeon Dojo, I think I would still like to cast, but probably not as much as this time around, because this time around I believe I was on every day. But I mean, it was fun, but I do feel like I need the perfect setup for with other casters. Someone like you two, actually. I do think that was probably one of the casts that I had the most fun, because we did have that, this is my area, this is your area, and this is your area, and we could just throw the ball to each other whenever we needed to.
Oh, well, now you've casted once, we could be like total divas about it, though, and we can be like, well, sorry, Wochi, I will not be casting unless I can cast alongside Manny and Marty. You can actually make demands like that now, because you're a qualified caster because you've casted once. Well, you casted about 20 times during the Dojo Risk to World First, but you know what I mean? It's and I think that the dojo gave us a place to experiment, to go into this without actually needing the fear, even though obviously I was a bit nervous, but like you say, we had over 20 other people casting as well, and people were giving a lot of advice beforehand. And to be honest, one of the pieces of advice that stuck with me was from Corey from Mistledine Online, and he just said, like, be confident about what you're saying. You know more than you think you do. Just go on there and be confident. And it's a really simple thing, but actually it really helped me just to think like, I know I'm good at certain things and some things I'm not. So I'm just going to focus on the things that I am, which is, making silly puns, coming up with random statistics, interrupting Marty. No, that's Marty interrupting me. Sorry, that's what you're good at. But, everyone has
I never interrupt you.
Everyone has their strengths, right? Everyone has their strengths. And I think the Dungeon Dojo really allowed sort of people just to, we got thrown together and we made it work. And there was, like you say, Manny, I think there was something wholesome about that. Just the fact that, yes, when you look at Echo, Liquid, and Method, like their production is stellar, like absolutely incredible. And sometimes, you look at what we did and it was like, it was still good. It was still good production, but there was a rawness to about it, which, obviously there's going to be when you've got people sitting in their bedrooms, casting a race to world first. They don't have a nice comfy couch to sit on and a blanket and getting brought hot chocolate, but there was just something nice about that. And I just want to shout out as well, just, we had the privilege of sitting casting, certain guilds like Instant Dollars, like you mentioned, Manny, Skyline, BDG, Conspiracy. Honestly, we also had the privilege of casting for the Undaunted Guild as well, one of the largest death guilds in World of Warcraft. And to me, that really made it for me, although we haven't even mentioned what a race to world first this was. But when you package that all in the same sandwich here and take a bite out of that, oh my goodness, the fact that we had these early race to world first narratives of, Instant Dollars and BDG and Skyline, and we got to see those guilds duke it out for those early kills. And I don't know about you two, but that was magical. That was absolutely magical. And I'm not a big race to world first fan, and I never have been. And honestly, now I just can't wait for the next one. How did you feel about that, Manny?
Oh, yeah. Like, it was so exciting. And that was our cast. We saw 3 world first, like world second kills, and then the groups going different ways. And it was so exciting. And being a part of it, you get it. Like, it's one thing to sort of go like, there's Raider.io and all the coverage that they do is amazing. And you get to see like, oh, this guild's here, this guild's here. And it's just like so distant. But like when you're watching it in action, that poetry in motion, as it were, we don't want to call it like a full-on boxing match, but it's a spectacle. It is definitely worth watching throughout the entire thing. And I got the hype. That's why I had to watch when it was like Liquid versus Echo with the like 1.5% kill, 1.7% kill. Oh my goodness, either one could get it. This was a race unlike any other for me because I stopped and I actually participated at this level. And I do encourage people to give it a shot. It may actually be something that you love, because you're right, like I haven't been somebody who's been into it before, but now I can't wait. Bring it on, the war within. Let's see what happens in the first tier.
I just want to add to that as well, that it's been so amazing to experience sort of like discovering the race to war first again through Tom, because we have like a group chat with our old co-host from our previous podcast, and it usually always me and him just being like, because he's NA, I'm EU, so it's like Echo is the best, no, Liquid is the best, and just having that sort of food going on. But it was actually nice to see as well to have Tom in there as well, and we actually had some conversations about what's going on and that hype train going, and just having that excitement for something together. So I'm very glad that you finally found the great race to the world first.
Final question here to wrap up. I mean, I feel like we could just talk about this for hours because it was such a magical event. But Amirdrassil, the Dream's Hope, best race to world first ever, Marty?
Undoubtedly, yes.
Both personally and in general, yes.
It's 3 yeses here from Talking WoW. How did you at home find the race to world first? Maybe you're not interested in the top 3, because I've seen people out there saying they're not interested in the top 3. They want to know more about the other guilds. Well, you should definitely check out Dungeon Dojo, because that's what they were doing. And we are so happy that, one, we got paired with Manny casting during this event, but we're also very thankful that you decided to take some time out to join us today, Manny, so we could reminisce a little bit about the event that took place. So thank you so much for being here.
It was a pleasure, just like it's been a pleasure casting with you guys. I'm looking forward to doing all of it again if we can find an excuse to do it.
And you can find Manny and Manny's podcast For Azeroth. We'll have links for all of that in our show notes. I've been Tom. That's been Marty. That's been Manny. And we've been talking WoW.
Thanks for tuning in, champion. Did you enjoy this episode of Talking WoW? If so, why not drop a review on your podcast catcher of choice or leave us a comment? You can find Talking WoW on Twitter or YouTube over at Talking WoW. Hope to see you again soon.